Thank you all. We're just going to introduce ourselves quickly and then we'll get started. So, and just so you know, Nitsan and Leanna are here. They are going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or tech problems, just reach out to them. We won't be really looking at the chat maybe until the end. So hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Haig. I'm the Director of Community Relations at the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island. We're going to talk a little bit more about our community in a few minutes. And Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Greenman. I'm the CEO of the Jewish Alliance and really excited to be here today and talk through our community solar project.
Awesome. So there we go. Here is what we are going to do today. We did some intros. We're going to do a little bit more. We'll share with you a bit more about our community, how we committed as a community to climate justice, and then more specifically our ongoing path to community solar, because one thing we'll talk about is that it is a long path. And the last piece we'll be talking about how you might be able to bring something like this back to your community. We will have time for questions at the end, and Adam and I are available to talk more at any point. And also just a quick shout out to some of our team members who have joined today, also from Rhode Island. So this is always a team effort, and I'm happy they all could be here today. So just as a quick start, I am going to put a little poll in the chat. If you guys all just want to click on that, it will be just a little way to get us started to see where everyone is coming from. So it's just a question about your involvement personally, professionally, Jewish communally with renewable energy and solar energy, just as a little way to get us started. So if everyone could just go to the chat and click on that link, you'll see a quick little poll. And I'll give you all a minute to do that. So I see some answers rolling in here. You all can actually just click on the results tab yourself, I think. So you'll start to see everyone's answers. So it looks like we are coming at it. People have a lot of different involvement. So far, no one in their business. So that's something to think about. But we see some people who have been involved in their home with renewable energy, their Jewish community, more than one, you're not sure, also totally fine. I should have asked also about your car or your public transportation, because some of you, if you take public transportation or have an electric car, maybe you're utilizing renewable energy in that sense. So that's just something for us all to think about, and good for us to know as we get started. So just to start, I'm just going to start by talking a little bit about our community here. We are a community of about 20,000 Jews. That is basically the entire state and southern Massachusetts. So we are probably one of the only Jewish communities that we measure in our own full state, and then a little some. We have about 30 synagogues, and the Jewish Alliance is what some communities call an integrated federation or a functional federation. So in this building and our team, we do all of the classic programming you may associate with the JCC. So we have a fitness center, a pool, early childhood, summer camp, after school programs. We have an 80,000 square foot facility where we house those programs. We have adult programming and Jewish education. We have the Community Relations Council, which I work with, which I'll talk a bit more about. And we also do community fundraising and grant making. Just a show of hands, has anyone, I'm going to exclude those of you who work here, but has anyone been to Rhode Island before, visited Touro Synagogue, which you'll see on the right? That's the oldest synagogue in America, which is in Newport, Rhode Island. So we welcome you all to come here after COVID, and preferably in the summer, because then you can go to the beach, but it's a great place to visit. So hopefully we'll see you all here at some point. So I want to talk a little bit about how as a community we committed to a climate action agenda, and then we'll talk a bit more about what that meant for our net metering project. So probably most of you in your Jewish community have something called a Community Relations Council, or someone on the Jewish professional team who does maybe advocacy work, maybe legislative affairs or government affairs. most Jewish communities have either an individual or a team of people who do this work either as part of the federation or on their own. When I moved into this position a couple years ago, we used it as an opportunity to kind of rethink our whole community relations work. And we did that by doing a listening campaign. We went out into the community and talked with people who have been doing this work for generations in their family, social justice leaders, Jewish and not Jewish, who have never done this work in partnership with the organized Jewish community. And we use this as an opportunity to think about what should we be doing. It's essentially a team of one or so with a lot of support from my colleagues. And we really had to think about what are the issues that are most important to us and where can we bring the most impact. And the feedback we got over and over again from people across our Jewish community was, we want you focusing on local issues that don't uniquely pertain to the Jewish community, but that the Jewish community can be involved in and partner with our non-Jewish partners and advocates. And we came up with a few issue areas that you can see listed here. And, you know, we really wanted to use this as an opportunity to think about how can we bring this work into all parts of our Jewish community. So we talk about what we did internally at the Jewish Alliance. What are we doing as a greater Jewish community in partnership with our synagogues, our agencies, our day schools, and also just Jewish individuals who care about these issues? And the last piece is, how are we doing this in partnership with state level advocates, our elected officials, interfaith partners, and all of those groups. So with all of these issues that we've gotten involved in, we try to take that lens to each of them. You know, this was our focused agenda. And then even with that, you know, each of these in itself could be a full-time job, a full-time organization working on this. And our model is really to not do anything on our own. It's to always do it in partnership with the groups who are living in this work and doing this day in and day out. Some of those people are in the Jewish community, some of them aren't. And we're really there to, you know, amplify that work and think about what is a unique way the Jewish community can get involved. So for the specifics of this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the climate justice work. So what that looked like for us was we began working on a Hazon seal, and so appreciative of Hazon and your team for helping us do that. We received our seal in, I think, February, although it's so weird to think about something happening in February before the whole world, you know, went upside down. But we received that seal in February. You know, we formed a green team like many of you. We made some of our own internal changes. We had some service projects. We got funds through the Ethical Eating Grant to do some cool vegan food events here. We've gotten involved in state level, city level advocacy around climate issues. For example, we've joined the PVD Streets Coalition. It's a group in Providence that's working to create increased mobility options for people in the city. And continuing to find ways to do fun, exciting community engagement work around climate justice and environmental advocacy, which we're trying to integrate into all the different parts of our organization, which I spoke about that we already have here. And the last piece, which is really the focus of this presentation, is our move to remote net metering, which definitely fit into our climate justice work, but also fit into other priorities as us as an organization. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam, who's going to talk a bit more about those specifics.
Thanks, Stephanie. So in our community, we just launched a new strategic plan, and one of the pillars of that plan is really around community collaboration. As Stephanie said, we've got about 30 synagogues in the state, Jewish agencies of all stripes as well. And one of the things that really, I think, was a pillar for us in terms of trying to work with them, a real nice opportunity even before the strategic plan launched, was on this concept of remote net metering. So remote net metering is essentially the idea that you use an off-site location where a solar field is constructed, and that the energy that's produced from that solar field offsets the energy that is consumed at your location. So in the case of the Dwares JCC, as Stephanie said, our location is 80,000 square feet. Last year, we spent $300,000 on electric and natural gas to heat and cool this building and have the energy flowing. And so that's a significant line item for us. The idea with net metering, we looked into putting solar panels on our roof, both from the economic sense, but really to live into our values, to live into our work around climate action. And we found that the size of our building, we don't have enough space for the amount of solar panels we would need to offset the cost of our energy. And so we started looking for other options. In Rhode Island, this option of remote net metering is prominent. I know that it's available in many other states as well. And so for us, this seemed like a win-win. The company that we ultimately went to work with, the solar field is being constructed on a former Brown site. So again, I know that there are some concerns sometimes with the construction of solar fields, that it's done on farmland or done on, that they're clear cutting trees to build a solar field. In this case, we were able to join in on a project that was on a former brownfield site and wouldn't have been able to be used any other way. Stephanie, could you advance to the next slide? So for us, it supports our climate agenda, but the other thing we were able to do, and this gets back to the collaboration component, is to leverage our size and our scope to support and help other Jewish agencies that wanted to do this with us. So climate action is not just something that the Alliance is working on, it's something that many of our local synagogues are also concerned with. And if your community is anything like ours, we have significant sized synagogues as well. Giant buildings constructed years and years ago. The energy efficiency might not be the best. And so again, from both a living into your mission and values and an economic sense, this could have posed a terrific opportunity for them. So what we did was reached out to all of our agencies, all of the synagogues, and brought them in when you could bring people in to really talk about this concept and to talk about this idea and to think about how do we leverage our collective size and scope and our collective kilowatt energy production to not only get to a place where we are getting all of that energy from renewable sources, but also able to achieve greater savings in doing so. For us, this was able to help some of those small synagogues where this would not be something that would be cost effective for them. The developers of remote net metering projects don't want to do all the paperwork that needs to be done for really small synagogues or really small agencies. And so because we had 80,000 square feet, because we were using $300,000 a year worth of energy, we were that big organization that was able to bring others with us. And we were able to work with the solar company to essentially get a 30% discount on all of our electricity, but also on all of get that same rate for all of the Jewish agencies, no matter what their size is. So this is something that was really appealing to a lot of them. We've had 3 sign on so far. We have a local Hillel that has joined on, the local family service, senior service agency, and 1 synagogue also is signed on with us right now. We've done the initial review of contracts, and the solar field should be online by the end of 2020. Like all community projects, there's always some issues there. The biggest downside with this project, and the thing that our board discussed more than anything else, was that in order for this to work for the developer, they need you to commit to a 20-year contract to essentially commit to the life of the solar panels. That was something that our board discussed quite a bit. Who knows what the world will look like 20 years from now? Will there be some new technology that'll supersede this and suddenly we'll be left in the lurch? But ultimately, it was the arguments around that not only is this a financial decision we're making, this is a mission-based decision that we're making. And so while a 20-year agreement seems like a long time, what we're really doing is investing in our mission and investing in our work. And so that was something that carried the day as well. Like I said, and Stephanie, if you can click forward, it's now 3 additional organizations since Stephanie and I actually did this PowerPoint. And COVID has put a little bit of a slowdown to the plan. One, it's lowered utility costs for us here at the Alliance because we're not open quite as much, but it's also delayed the solar project a little bit. But again, we're going live at the end of the year, and I think that from our perspective, we're really focused on trying to get to that mission-focused, good financial decision. There are organizations that try to do this through their endowments and how they're investing in their endowment income, and that's something we're looking at as well. But this was a way that not only could we help our bottom line at the Alliance, but we could help all of our agencies and synagogues in our community potentially support their bottom lines, all while making sure that we were living and setting an incredible example for the larger Rhode Island community to say, here's the Jewish community really taking a leadership role on climate action, living into our mission, living into all the reasons that it's important, and so it's something that we're really proud of, and looking forward to seeing that solar field come online in the next few months. With that, I'll turn it back over to Stephanie.
The conversation piece of this is, what does this look like for you? I know people are calling them from all over around the country, at synagogues, at Hillels, at other Jewish organizations, or just people interested in this work. And I would say, the part of the reason why we're able to do this is because we were doing it as together as a Jewish organization, Jewish organizations. And, the first thing I would ask you to look into is, does your synagogue, federation, JCC, CRC have a climate agenda, first of all? If they don't, maybe that's a good place to start. I don't think they necessarily need to announce it on their website or on their Facebook page, but if they're internally committed to reviewing energy, like Adam was saying, their investment portfolios, this is a place to really make a big impact as an organization. I think many of us are grappling with the climate crisis and how do we make it relevant, and these are spaces and systems we do have control over. So where we're getting our energy, how we're investing our money, all of those things are an important thing for us to be thinking about. So that's kind of the first piece. The second piece, like Adam said, we were able to do this because we were doing it in partnership with other groups. Smaller synagogues and agencies were able to get the same price negotiated with the solar company because we were doing it together. Collective bargaining 101 is we were bringing our power together, and we were able to do some of the work here at the Jewish Alliance because we have a finance department, a finance committee, a buildings committees, people who are committing time and resources to thinking this through, so that the synagogues, the agencies, the day schools that may not have those human resources to spend the time doing that, they could feel comfortable partnering with us. The other thing is to think about building coalitions outside of the Jewish community. We did not do that here, but I could imagine a space where there could be interfaith community solar together. If there's a church in your neighborhood, a school, another nonprofit, if this is something that they care about, you could do this together with them, and think about how are you doing this in partnership. These solar companies are for-profit companies. They want to make money, and if you're bringing customers together to them and saying this is what we're looking to do, and then it also advances the climate agenda that we all have. The last piece would be to start reaching out to solar companies. This is not an area I'm super familiar with, but like Adam said, solar and remote net metering is happening a lot around the country, but there may be other renewable energy opportunities beyond solar energy. Last summer, I had the opportunity to go visit the offshore wind farm that was built off the shore of Rhode Island. And that wind farm is powering, I think, 8,000 or 10,000 homes on Block Island, which is an island off the coast of Rhode Island. So, offshore wind energy, there are so many different renewable energy options. Obviously, I'm not an expert on it, but there are other people who are. And, beginning those conversations, just seeing what are they looking for? What do the contracts look like? What are the pros and cons of doing that. And I think that's kind of how you start to do this work in your own community. And the last piece, just to keep in mind, I didn't put it on here, and Adam and I were just talking about this, is we started talking about this probably, you know, a year and a half ago, maybe at this point, was when we really started doing this climate justice work, and the net metering came up as an option. And we still haven't quite gone live yet with the project. So this is a long-term project. You know, this is something you have to commit to and think through and be willing to commit some time and energy to it. But, you know, hopefully once it's up and running, it's just a cost saving for us, and we're really living into the values that we all share, that I'm hoping we all share if we're all here today. So that's kind of how, you know, the next steps could look like for you in your home community. Adam and I wanted to keep the presentation short to allow for questions or conversations. And I know we all have, you know, the Zoom fatigue, so we didn't want to just talk at you for too long. So I think I will stop sharing my screen now, and Adam and I can come back. And if anyone has any questions, we are happy to talk those through a bit more.
And I'll just add, I think, thank you, Stephanie. I think now is the perfect time to be thinking about this, considering this. We've been talking a lot here at the Alliance about, in the midst of COVID, that's, you know, wreaking havoc on budgets in every nonprofit organization. And what are ways to reduce costs and to find ways to ultimately, hopefully, reduce costs and live into your mission. This is a terrific opportunity to begin looking into these kinds of things. The tax credits that are available for solar projects are likely not going away. If anything, they could be increasing over the next year or so. And I didn't mention the Alliance will be saving about $50,000 a year from this remote net metering project. So there's significant cost savings while also living into your mission, not owning the equipment, which I think is also a really important thing, and just doing good. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and it's a smallish group, so you all can just unmute yourselves and ask a question, I think, if you have it, or comment.
I'll open stuff up. Hi, everyone. My name's Mark. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and just wanted to say things are actually very different from your experience. And sorry for the background noise. My kid's in gym class virtually, as the case may be. So in Georgia, we don't have community net metering available. We barely have net metering for a home installation available. That just changed because Georgia Power was sued. And only because of a settlement, a certain fraction of people are able to get into net metering, and it's not necessarily permanent. So it's a much harder beginning point for shuls. We are looking into our synagogue. It's a very large building with a very large flat roof. So there's a chance that we can do it. But like unlike yours, to make it cost effective, we have to own the panels. It's much more expensive to lease or rent or anything like that. So you have to have a group that's willing to take on that responsibility of having the funding somehow to make a big purchase, to have the installation, to own it, to know you're not getting that metering, so you can't go too big, because if you create more energy, you're selling it out at fractions of pennies on the dollar. So it's I don't know if I actually have a question at the end of all this, but just it's nice to hear your experience that it does work other ways in other parts of the country, because it's been a really tough start in the Southeast, despite our amount of sunshine available.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm wondering, has anyone had any similar experiences to Mark? Is it more challenging in your community? Is it something you've looked into at all? Rondi?
Yes. I'm with Temple Kolami in West Bloomfield, Michigan. It's part of metropolitan Detroit. We don't have net metering anymore. In Michigan, we are a relatively small congregation, And although we convinced everyone it was a good idea, we couldn't even begin to start until the roof got repaired, and we haven't decided to repair the right pieces of the roof in order for us to put up solar ourselves. So the idea of teaming together with other people sounds like a great idea. Yes, and now that we're not using the building, which we aren't for the most part, yeah, it's just been tough.
Does anyone else have any experiences they want to share, or, you know, successes you've had in this area?
I did just want to toss out there that it's always worth looking into in your area, but right now the United States is absolutely a patchwork of restrictions or laws or just utility companies' policies on whether or not things like this are possible. So it's very regionally dependent. It varies widely even across North Carolina, where I am. It's like different parts of the state.
I will say we're very lucky here in the Northeast. You know, basically all the states in the Northeast have these remote net metering. You know, they really work. The state renewable energy offices are working really closely with utilities and have worked out a way to really make it both attractive to developers, but also attractive to organizations like ours to be a part of it. In Rhode Island specifically, this was something that for-profit companies were able to take advantage of for a while. It's only in the last year or two that nonprofits have also been able to get into this space, and that required some changes in laws so that we could work with developers that were eligible for tax credits.
Okay, well, I thank you all for coming. I think, you know, this is just us sharing our experience and what has worked well here. I think part of doing this work is figuring out what works in your own community, the government and regulations that are already set, and where is the commitment. And I think this is a good model for, you know, any type of community organizing, but building in coalition with other groups and thinking about how can you leverage those resources together. We did it through remote net metering, and hopefully we'll continue doing it through other projects. But I think, you know, power in numbers, obviously, and if you can share resources in time, especially if you're going into the for-profit realm, it's always helpful. So Adam and I are, you know, always available to talk to anyone in your community who may be interested in learning more about what we did. And I think that's it for now, unless anyone has any other questions.
Mark's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that's actually really helping us despite all of the problems is that Georgia Interfaith Power and Light has a great program called SolarWise. I don't think it's exclusive to Georgia. So if you are trying to, you know, start this process, you can look up your Interfaith Power and Light group that's near you. And we're just starting the process at the synagogue that I'm involved with, but it's in this area, low cost or free, depending on the size of your congregation and what kind of resources you have to do and the analysis and to even start the process of, and then they have connections to some of the providers and can help do kind of the group, not necessarily a group buy, but because they're doing multiple things at the same time, they can get at some of the lower prices that Stephanie and Adam were talking about that you might not be able to get on your own. So if you're really stuck and looking for that, Interfaith Power and Light is a good start point.
Yeah, they're a great group, and they're probably chapters all over the place. So I think these partnerships certainly do not have to be only in the Jewish community or exclusively with Jewish partners. Also, you know, I think finding the partners where they are, if you have shared values, it will be a success for any project that you're working on. So it looks like Nitzan posted in the chat the information for the closing session. I think you have a bathroom break or a stretch break or lunch if you want to grab something quick before then. But thank you all. Thank you, Leanna, for organizing. And I hope you enjoyed the conference.